Welcome to Rare Breed Brotherhood. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who changes your life the most. Sigma males are rarely the ones to make dramatic entrances or demand attention, yet their presence often becomes a turning point in the lives of those around them. They do not follow the rules that society expects. They do not seek approval. They do not react to manipulation in the ways most people anticipate. And it is this very unpredictability, combined with quiet confidence and unwavering self-respect, that makes them the plot twist in someone's story. What sets them apart is their ability to reveal truths without force. They make people question the routines, habits, and compromises they have been accepting without thinking. They do not lecture or correct, but their way of living naturally exposes gaps between comfort and growth, pretense and authenticity, dependence and independence. Around them, people begin to notice where they have been living on autopilot and where they have been giving away their power for approval. A Sigma male's influence is subtle, but profound. He forces reflection through observation rather than confrontation. He inspires change through example rather than instruction. He challenges patterns without trying to control outcomes. And he does all of this without ever asking for recognition. By simply existing in a way that is authentic, intentional, and emotionally independent, a Sigma male becomes an unexpected catalyst. His presence disrupts the ordinary and makes people see themselves and their lives in ways they never imagined. This is why he is not just a person in someone's story. He is the plot twist they did not see coming. Let's dive in deeper, brothers. Number 1. They walk into your life quietly, but leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about people. When a Sigma male walks into your life, it never feels like a dramatic entrance. There is no spotlight, no grand announcement, no attempt to impress. He simply exists in the room, and somehow you feel the energy shift. It is almost unsettling in a quiet way because you cannot immediately explain why he stands out, yet you cannot ignore it either. He becomes the kind of presence that makes you take a second look at yourself without him saying a single word. The truth is that most people are used to loud personalities. They are used to those who demand attention or try to win approval through charm. So when someone shows up with calm confidence, it catches you off guard. You start wondering why he does not crave validation like everyone else, why he is not trying to be liked, why he seems comfortable in his own skin without seeking applause. This alone makes you question your own definition of strength. And then something deeper happens. His behavior exposes the difference between genuine connection and shallow performance. For example, imagine you are in a group conversation. Others may interrupt each other, trying to sound smarter or more interesting. But he stays quiet until he actually has something worth saying. When he finally speaks, the room listens because his words come from thought, not from ego. That moment makes you realize how much noise fills your everyday life and how rare it is to meet someone who values meaning over attention. As you observe him more closely, you begin to question your own standards. You ask yourself why you tolerate certain behaviors from people, why you settle for half-hearted relationships, why you ignore your boundaries just to keep the peace. A Sigma male never asks you these questions directly. His presence simply makes you aware of them. Before you know it, he becomes a silent mirror that reflects who you really are and who you have been pretending to be. And without trying to change you, he inspires you to expect more from yourself and from the people around you. That is the quiet power he brings. He does not enter loudly, but he leaves a mark that changes how you see everything. Number 2, they force people to confront their own masks without attacking them directly. A Sigma male has a way of making people confront the parts of themselves they have been avoiding for years, and the strange thing is, he never does it with aggression. He does not expose anyone. He does not embarrass them. He does not call them out in public. He simply lives in a level of honesty that makes people feel the weight of their own masks. His presence becomes a quiet truth that forces people to look inward. Most people wear masks without even realizing it. Some pretend to be confident when they feel insecure. Others act like they do not care when they are hurting. Some use charm as a shield because they want to hide their fear of rejection. A Sigma male sees right through these layers, not because he is trying to be clever, but because he pays attention in ways most people never do. For example, Imagine someone who always cracks jokes to avoid serious conversations. Around most people, they get away with it. But with a Sigma male, the joke falls flat because he does not respond with the usual laughter or easy distraction. He simply looks at them with calm understanding, and suddenly the person feels exposed. Not attacked, just seen. That quiet moment often says more than 1,000 confrontational words. He does this in relationships too. If someone pretends to be okay when they are clearly upset, he does not force them to talk. Yet his calm presence makes it almost impossible to keep pretending. People find themselves opening up even when they plan to keep everything hidden. His honesty gives them permission to be real, and once the mask slips, they usually realize how exhausting it was to maintain it. The power of a Sigma male comes from transparency. He walks in his truth so naturally that people cannot help but see the gap between who they are and who they pretend to be. He never needs to expose anyone because their own behavior becomes clear when placed next to genuine authenticity. This is why people either grow around him or quietly pull away. His honesty is a mirror, and once you see your reflection, you can never unsee it. Number 3. They break patterns by refusing to follow emotional scripts others expect. Most people run their relationships on emotional patterns they have repeated for years. They know exactly which buttons to press, which stories to tell, which reactions to expect. Some people rely on guilt. Others depend on pity. Some use charm to soften their intentions. These emotional scripts work on almost everyone because most people respond in predictable ways. But a Sigma male is the exception. He does not play the part they expect him to play, and this instantly disrupts the familiar rhythm that others are used to controlling. For example, imagine someone who always uses silence to manipulate attention. They pull back hoping you will chase after them and ask what is wrong. With most people it works perfectly, but try it on a Sigma male and something unusual happens. He will simply respect the silence and carry on with his life. Instead of chasing, he creates space. Instead of feeding into the performance, he treats it as a choice the other person made. Suddenly the script falls apart because he refused the role they assumed he would take. Another example is when someone uses anger to dominate a conversation. They expect you to walk on eggshells or apologize even when you did nothing wrong. But a Sigma male stays calm. He listens, but he does not bend unnecessarily. His steady presence becomes a shock to someone who is used to controlling the environment through emotional outbursts. That calmness exposes the real intention behind the anger, and the entire game loses its power. He also disrupts patterns in softer areas of life. If someone always expects praise for every little effort, he does not reward it with exaggerated attention. If someone tries to test his loyalty by creating unnecessary drama, he refuses to participate. If someone pushes emotional boundaries assuming he will tolerate it, he simply steps back. His behavior teaches people that love and connection do not give them the right to manipulate. This refusal to follow emotional scripts is what makes a Sigma male so unpredictable in the best way. He changes the flow of relationships by removing the usual reward system that emotional games rely on. And when people can no longer rely on their old patterns, they are forced to show their real selves. That is when genuine connection becomes possible. His presence does not just break patterns, it creates new ones built on honesty, clarity, and emotional maturity. Number 4. They show people how much of their life was built on autopilot. A Sigma male has a way of making people realize how much of their life has been running on autopilot without them even noticing. Most people go through their days following routines they never question. They wake up, repeat the same habits, stay in the same relationships, entertain the same conversations, and follow the same emotional patterns without asking themselves if any of it truly serves them. But when a Sigma male enters the picture, his intentional way of living creates a contrast that is impossible to ignore. He does not move through life blindly. He pays attention. He chooses his words carefully. He chooses his company even more carefully. He thinks before reacting. He reflects before committing. He questions his own decisions instead of blaming the world for everything that goes wrong. This level of awareness highlights the difference between living on purpose and simply surviving day by day. Imagine you have a friend who never stops to evaluate their choices. They complain about their job every week, yet never consider applying for a new one. They stay in draining friendships because it is familiar. They eat, speak, and react without noticing their own patterns. To them, this is normal. But around a Sigma male, that normal suddenly feels exposed. His daily habits show them how disconnected they have become from their own lives. For example, he may say something simple like, "I need time to think before I answer that," instead of giving a rushed response to please others. That pause alone makes people realize how often they speak without intention. Or he may choose not to go along with a group decision just because everyone else said yes. That moment of independence reminds people of how often they follow the crowd out of fear of standing out. He also listens in a way that reveals how rarely others truly listen. When he is with you, he is present. Not half distracted, not scrolling through his phone. That kind of focus feels rare in a world filled with noise, and it makes people aware of how disconnected they have become from meaningful moments. The truth is, a Sigma male does not try to wake anyone up. His life simply acts as a reminder. He becomes a living example of what it looks like to live with intention, and once people notice that difference, they begin to question how much of their own life is just routine instead of choice. Through his presence, they slowly realize that autopilot might be comfortable, but it never leads to growth. Number 5. They teach people the value of distance without ever preaching. A Sigma male has a very distinct way of teaching people the value of distance, and the beauty of it is that he never has to lecture anyone. He never delivers long speeches about respect or boundaries. He does not try to make anyone feel guilty or prove a point. He simply steps back and allows the truth to reveal itself naturally. That quiet retreat becomes a powerful lesson that most people never forget. Distance is something many people fear because they think it means rejection. But for a Sigma male, distance is clarity. It shows him who genuinely cares and who was only around because they enjoyed the access. When he pulls away, the people who value him will still reach out with consistency, while the ones who only came for benefits will fade without effort. His absence exposes what words could never explain. Imagine someone who constantly takes his presence for granted. They assume he will always be available, always understanding, always giving. Instead of arguing or demanding change, he simply creates space. He stops overgiving. He stops explaining himself. He stops following the emotional routine that the other person relied on. Suddenly, that person begins to feel the difference. The easy access they once enjoyed is no longer there, and it forces them to question their own behavior. Another example is in friendships. Many people drain each other without realizing it, because the convenience of constant communication makes them forget the importance of respect. When a Sigma male steps back even slightly, the friend begins to notice how much peace and emotional grounding he brought into their life. That distance becomes a quiet wake-up call. He also uses distance as a tool for self-respect. If someone crosses a line, he will not argue or beg for understanding. He will give them space to reflect. He understands that if someone cannot see his value with him present, they will clearly see it with him gone. And he is right. Distance has a way of removing illusions. It separates those who care about the person from those who only care about the benefits. Without preaching a single word, he teaches one of the most important lessons in human connection. Respect is not measured by how close someone stands to you. It is measured by how they act when you take 2 quiet steps back. Number 6. They change relationships by not begging for validation. A Sigma male changes the tone of every relationship he enters because he refuses to live on borrowed validation. He does not chase compliments. He does not need constant reassurance. He does not bend himself into shapes just to be liked. His quiet confidence becomes a shock to people who have built their identity around being accepted. Without saying a word, he exposes how dependent many people are on approval, and how uncomfortable they become around someone who truly knows his worth. Most people grew up believing that the more agreeable you are, the more lovable you become. They think staying silent makes them easy to handle. They think giving in makes them valuable. They think doing too much for others is the same as being appreciated. But a Sigma male refuses to play that game. He walks into relationships with a calm understanding that his value is not up for negotiation. He does not put his self-worth in anyone's hands, and this becomes a powerful mirror for the people around him. For example, imagine someone who constantly needs validation from their partner or friends. They ask for reassurance again and again because they are terrified of disappointing others. When they meet a Sigma male, he does not feed that fear by giving empty praise. Instead, he treats them with respect, but not dependence. His steady presence makes them realize how draining it is to live for other people's approval. They begin to question why they struggle to stand alone when he does it with ease. In another situation, someone may try to make him insecure so they can feel superior. They may compare him to others or throw subtle comments hoping he will shrink. But a Sigma male does not react. He does not compete. He does not argue. His silence says everything. His self-security becomes a wall they cannot break, and the moment they realize they cannot control his sense of self, the entire dynamic shifts. His confidence is not loud. It is not arrogant. It is simply grounded. And that groundedness forces others to reflect on their own insecurities. It pushes them to ask themselves why they need constant approval to feel stable. It challenges them to build their own confidence instead of borrowing it from other people's opinions. In the end, he teaches a lesson without speaking. When you stop begging for validation, you stop losing yourself. And when you stop losing yourself, every relationship around you becomes more honest and more real. Number 7. They inspire others to raise their standards just by being themselves. A Sigma male does not walk around telling people to improve their lives, change their habits, or adopt higher standards. He never tries to control anyone or force change through pressure. Instead, he lives with a quiet excellence that naturally challenges the people around him to level up. His presence alone becomes a silent reminder of what it looks like to hold yourself to a higher standard. And without even trying, he inspires others to rise to the occasion. People are used to loud advice. They are used to being told what to do. They are used to being lectured about discipline, growth, and maturity. But a Sigma male teaches through example, not instruction. When you watch how he carries himself, you begin to notice the gap between the life you want and the life you have been settling for. For example, imagine he has a routine of waking up early to work on his goals. He never brags about it or tries to make anyone feel lazy. But when someone around him sees how consistent he is and how steady his progress becomes, they start to question their own excuses. They begin to think, if he can stay committed even with everything on his plate, what is stopping me? The same thing happens in relationships. He respects boundaries, communicates honestly, and does not play emotional games. When others witness this, they start to look at their own behavior. Someone who once tolerated disrespect suddenly feels the need to demand better. Someone who used to give too much without receiving anything in return begins to realize they deserve more. His presence quietly pushes them to expect what they have been afraid to ask for. Even his mindset inspires change. He focuses on growth instead of comparison. He values peace over empty attention. He chooses his circle carefully. When people see that he is not afraid to walk alone, they start to question why they cling to draining friendships or shallow connections. His life shows them that comfort does not always mean fulfillment. The beauty of a Sigma male influence is that it never feels forced. People change around him because they want to, not because they were told to. His energy simply wakes something up inside them. A reminder that they were always capable of more, but needed someone who lived at a higher standard to prove it was possible. Number 8. They reveal hidden agendas without trying to uncover anything. A Sigma male has a way of seeing people that feels almost uncanny. He does not interrogate or dig for secrets. He does not try to catch anyone in a lie. Yet somehow he always notices the subtle signals that reveal hidden agendas. The body language, the tone of voice, the tiny inconsistencies that others overlook become clear to him. Without effort, he exposes intentions people thought were perfectly hidden. Most people operate under the assumption that if they speak carefully, manipulate subtly, or hide their motives, no one will notice. They think deception is a shield. But a Sigma male's presence alone changes the game. He observes with patience and without judgment. He does not react immediately or emotionally, but he never forgets. Over time, the truth becomes obvious simply because he recognizes patterns that most people ignore. For example, imagine a coworker who constantly praises you while subtly trying to take credit for your ideas. With most people, you might shrug it off or convince yourself it is harmless. Around a Sigma male, that behavior becomes glaring. He notices the inconsistencies and the underlying motive without needing confrontation. He may respond with neutrality, yet the person's hidden agenda feels exposed because the mask they thought they wore no longer works. It is the same in relationships. Someone may pretend to care deeply while acting selfishly behind the scenes. A Sigma male does not demand proof or dig through every word. He observes, listens, and waits. Eventually, their true intentions reveal themselves naturally because he does not play along with the facade. This ability to see through pretense is not about judgment or control. It is about awareness. People underestimate him because he does not react loudly or forcefully. They think they can manipulate or deceive him like they do others, but his quiet observation uncovers truths they never intended to reveal. And that is why he becomes a plot twist. He exposes realities that were hidden in plain sight, forcing people to confront their own intentions whether they are ready or not. Number 9. They never compete with anyone, which ironically puts them ahead. A Sigma male never feels the need to compete for attention, approval, or dominance. While most people are constantly measuring themselves against others, comparing accomplishments, or trying to outshine someone else, he focuses entirely on his own path. He does not compete to prove himself. He does not chase recognition. And ironically, this makes him stand out in ways that people who are always in the race can never match. Society is built on comparison. People assume that success, respect, and influence are earned by being louder, faster, or more aggressive than everyone else. But a Sigma male quietly operates outside of that expectation. His calm steadiness and self-assurance allow him to progress without the distraction of rivalry. While others waste energy monitoring each other, he invests it in growth, skill, and meaningful goals. For example, imagine two colleagues vying for the same promotion. One constantly tries to impress the boss, undermining others and stressing over every small advantage. The Sigma male focuses on doing excellent work, staying reliable, and building quiet credibility. When the results come in, his work speaks for itself, leaving others scrambling to understand why his approach succeeded without the drama of competition. The same applies to relationships and social dynamics. Others may try to dominate conversations or prove their superiority. A Sigma male does not engage in these games. He does not need to win arguments or dominate social spaces. By staying composed, observing, and only engaging when necessary, he often gains influence naturally without creating friction or resentment. His lack of competition is not laziness or indifference. It is confidence rooted in knowing his value. People expect rivalry, but his refusal to play the expected game becomes his secret advantage. By focusing inward instead of outward, he rises above the noise, letting the world reveal his worth rather than forcing it. In this way, his steadiness becomes a magnet for respect, attention, and opportunities that others chase but can never truly capture. In conclusion, the quietest presence often leaves the loudest impact. Sigma males are unlike anyone else you will meet. They do not follow the crowd. They do not compete for attention. They do not bend themselves to fit what others expect. Yet somehow, just by being themselves, they become the unexpected turning point in people's lives. Their calm confidence, self-respect, and unwavering honesty reveal truths that most people have spent years hiding even from themselves. They expose patterns, disrupt comfort zones, and challenge the very way people have been living. Being around a Sigma male is not about drama or spectacle. It is about awareness. His quiet presence forces reflection. It teaches lessons about boundaries, authenticity, and self-worth that no lecture or advice could ever communicate. People notice the contrast between his intentional way of living and their own autopilot routines. They begin to see where they have settled, where they have tolerated, and where they have compromised their own values. The most powerful thing about a Sigma male is that he does this without trying. He does not demand change. He does not manipulate or provoke. He simply walks his path with clarity and confidence, and in doing so he becomes a mirror. People either rise to meet the example he sets, or they begin to see what they were missing in themselves. His influence is subtle but undeniable, gentle but transformative, quiet but unforgettable. In the end, A Sigma male is the plot twist, not because he wants to be. He is the plot twist because he lives truthfully, deeply, and without compromise in a world where most people settle for imitation, distraction, and conformity. And once someone experiences that presence, they cannot unsee it or ignore it. It leaves them thinking, reflecting, and ultimately growing. That is the honest truth about why Sigma males change lives in ways no one ever expects. Thank you, watching brothers.